Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, picture this. It's June 1992, a quiet, totally normal suburban home in Springfield, Missouri. 3 women walk through their front door and they are never seen again. No trace, no bodies, absolutely no answers. I know, it sounds exactly like a script for a Hollywood thriller, but I assure you, this is entirely real. Okay, let's dive into this, because we have to ask, how do 3 grown women just vanish without a trace? We're talking about a case with 0 signs of a struggle, no forced entry, no bodies left behind, and to this very day, no confirmed suspects. It's a literal logistical nightmare that has absolutely stumped seasoned investigators for decades now. To understand just how baffling this whole thing is, we really have to look at how incredibly normal the evening started out. It was June 6, 1992. Recent high school graduates Stacy McCall and Suzie Streeter had just spent the evening celebrating with friends after their graduation ceremonies. Late that night, instead of crashing at another friend's crowded house, they made the fateful decision to just sleep at Suzie's place. Waiting there for them was Suzie's mother, Sherrill Levitt. Honestly, nothing about this sequence of events was unusual. It was just your completely typical graduation night. But as you'll see, that normality completely evaporated by the next morning. When friends arrived to pick Stacy and Suzie up for a fun day out at a local water park, something was glaringly wrong right off the bat. The front door of the house was just sitting there, completely unlocked. And this brilliantly illustrates the core paradox of this entire mystery. Inside that house, the women's purses were sitting right there in plain sight. All their cash was untouched, their car keys were right where you'd expect them to be, yet Stacy, Suzie, and Sherrill, they were completely gone. It's like they literally vanished into thin air. Let's break down exactly what investigators found when they walked in, or rather, what they didn't find. The beds appeared to have actually been slept in, meaning the women likely made it to sleep before whatever happened. The family dog was just wandering around the house safely. There were absolutely 0 signs of forced entry on any of the doors or windows. No blood, no obvious signs of a physical struggle. The house looked almost perfectly normal. And honestly, the fact that it held no obvious answers just deepens the confusion. But amidst all this eerie normality, there was exactly one physical anomaly at the entire scene. Just one single thing out of place. A broken porch-like globe right outside the house. It stood out as the literal only clue that something violent, sudden, or out of the ordinary might have occurred on that property. But here is where the story takes a deeply, deeply frustrating turn for law enforcement. You see, before the police ever even arrived at the scene, those friends who'd come to pick the girls up noticed the broken glass on the porch. Being well-meaning, they actually grabbed a broom, swept it up, and threw it away. They unknowingly destroyed what could have been the only vital piece of physical evidence in this entire case. Just gone. And the bizarre details certainly didn't stop at the physical scene itself. Shortly after the disappearances, several unusual, extremely eerie phone calls were actually received at the house. According to the reports, an anonymous caller made deeply disturbing comments before just hanging up the line. To this day, the identity of that caller has never been confirmed. It just adds this incredibly unsettling layer of suspense to the whole timeline of that weekend. Now, obviously, news of 3 local women vanishing spread like wildfire, and the investigation immediately ballooned to a massive scale. Hundreds of leads started pouring in from nationwide sources as local and federal law enforcement began a really desperate round-the-clock search for any trace of the Springfield Three. So what did those massive search efforts actually look like on the ground? Well, investigators truly left no stone unturned. We're talking thousands of interviews conducted. They brought in and heavily questioned numerous potential suspects. Massive search parties combed through nearby forests. They dragged the rivers, scoured open farmland, and cleared out abandoned buildings. It was an incredibly exhaustive effort to find literally anything, but ultimately, it yielded nothing. Over the years, that total lack of physical evidence created a vacuum. And you know what happens when there's a vacuum in a high-profile case? Wild speculation pours in. Multiple unverified tips emerged over the decades claiming that the women's bodies were buried beneath local parking garages or that they were being hidden away in these incredibly remote locations. But despite really thorough searches and serious investigations into these claims, absolutely none of these specific locations or tips have ever been verified. Let's move to and see how this builds into the investigative theories. Because when physical evidence hits a total dead end like this, investigators have to rely on behavioral theories and circumstantial links to try and somehow reconstruct the crime. And in this case, a few distinct paths emerged. Some experts believed this had to be a highly coordinated, pre-planned kidnapping. Others suspected the perpetrator was actually someone the women knew, someone who easily gained their trust, which would perfectly explain that unlocked front door and the total lack of forced entry. Investigators also looked heavily into known serial offenders who were active during that era, as well as potential connections to folks from Suzie's past. But it is absolutely vital to point out here, not a single one of these theories has ever resulted in criminal charges, a confirmed suspect, or a shred of solid evidence. Which kind of brings us right back to the questions that make this case so maddening in the first place. I mean, think about this logically with me for a second. How could 3 grown adults disappear from a quiet, densely packed residential neighborhood without waking a single neighbor? Taking 3 people from a home against their will usually creates noise, right? Chaos, a visible struggle. But here, there was just silence. And to further complicate that logic, why on earth was nothing valuable taken? If this was just a home invasion or a standard robbery gone wrong, you'd fully expect the purses, the cash, the car keys to be the very first things a thief grabs. But all of that was left perfectly intact. An ordinary crime just does not fit the bizarre puzzle pieces left behind. Decades of grief and unanswered questions have followed that night. More than 30 years have passed since June 1992. Just let that sink in. 3 whole decades. Yet the families of Stacy, Suzie, and Sherrill are still out there, desperately searching for answers. Law enforcement continues to encourage anyone with even a sliver of credible information to come forward. But after 30 years, this case remains officially and undeniably unsolved. The enduring legacy of the Springfield Three really brings to mind a powerful thought. Sometimes the most frightening mysteries aren't the ones we solve. They're the ones that leave nothing behind except questions. I think that perfectly encapsulates exactly why this case continues to haunt both seasoned investigators and true crime enthusiasts all around the world. It is the absolute void of information that makes it so terrifying. So I want to leave you with the ultimate question. What actually happened inside that house on that quiet June night? 3 women walked through their front door, and the world simply never saw them again. Perhaps someday someone will finally come forward and reveal the truth. But until then, the sudden vanishing of the Springfield Three remains an absolute mystery. That wraps up this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and we'll catch you on the next one.